Day 35 of the BP oil disaster brought us this image today. This is the CEO of BP on Fouchon Beach in Louisiana, coming face to face with the disaster that his company has wrought. As the company's undersea well continues to spew unabated, and as that BP CEO walked along that beach today, nearby cleanup workers shoveled oil-stained sand into buckets and into trash bags, giving the distinct impression of trying to bail out the Titanic with teacups. BP's CEO Tony Hayward, seemingly shaken by the sight of the oil on the beach, was an intense moment. It was an intense moment, the power of which was slightly undercut by some random dude in a green shirt who inexplicably decided to step right in front of the cameras that Tony Hayward had turned to address at that very intense moment. We don't know who the green shirt guy is, but if you can get through him, here's what happened.
I visited today to see what is going on along the shore, and I have to say that I'm devastated by what I've seen. It's a sight I never wanted to see, and it's clear that our defences of the shore have been breached. We continue to fight this battle on three fronts: to eliminate the leak in the subsea, to contain the oil on the surface, and to defend the shoreline. And as I've said, it's clear that the defence of the shoreline at this point has not been successful, and I feel devastated by that, absolutely gutted. And I know that there is an enormous amount of anger and frustration on the part of the local communities. I share that. This is something I never wanted to see, and we are going to do everything in our power to deal with it as fast as we can and return the societies and communities of the Gulf Coast to normal as quickly as we can. But what I can tell you is that we are here for the long haul. We are going to clean every drop of oil off the shore. We will remediate any environmental damage, and we will put the Gulf Coast right and back to normality as fast as we can.
We will clean every drop of oil off the shore. We will put it right back to normality. Everybody wants that to be possible. Everybody wants the people who caused this disaster to commit to that kind of every last drop cleanup. But is that even possible? Is it possible to clean up every drop of oil from miles and miles of marshland that have already been oil soaked? So far, 35 days into this disaster, we are talking about more than 65 miles of coastline that have been hit with oil already. And the oil is still pumping out of the seabed, hundreds of thousands of gallons every day. Cleaning oil off a sand beach is one thing. You use shovels or a front-end loader to remove the oiled sand off the beach. Even that is not considered to be all that effective. But cleaning oil out of marshland? What exactly is the technical solution for that? What's the miracle cure there? Once oil makes landfall in coastal wetlands like this, nobody really knows how to clean it all up. In fact, the brutal truth at the base of this ongoing disaster is that nobody really knows how to do anything here. It's not like there is a solution that's not being tried. We've been drilling offshore since the 1930s. We have been drilling offshore this deep since the early 1980s. There's plenty of U.S. drilling that's way deeper than the site of this disaster, in the sense that it is done in deeper water. The U.S. government has approved drilling in water that is twice as deep as the Deepwater Horizon disaster. But in all of that time, with all that experience drilling under the sea, nothing in the resultant clarifying flow of crude and money has ever forced the oil industry or anyone else to come up with a way to quickly fix problems when they go wrong on the seabed. In big undersea blowouts, either the blowout preventer thing works, in this case it didn't, or you drill a relief well. That's pretty much it. In 1979, the Ixtoc oil well created a massive spill in the Gulf of Mexico, the largest accidental oil spill in history. That was in 1979. Just last year, 2009, another offshore rig exploded in the waters off Australia, and there were many other blowouts in interim years. But looking at these two as bookends, what did they try in those two cases, in Ixtoc and in the Australian case, 30 years apart? What did they try to deal with those blowouts? Exactly the same stuff they're doing now. Putting booms in the water, trying to burn the oil off the surface, using hay to try to sop it up, lowering things like containment domes. None of the techniques for ameliorating the impact of a blowout underwater are space age or new or 21st century in any way. All of this ineffectual stuff is the same menu of options that hasn't worked for decades. Those are the things that BP is trying now. Ultimately, what worked in Australia and what worked in Mexico 30 years ago, and really the only thing that's known to work in cases like this, is drilling relief wells. Brand new drilling that punctures the existing leaking well and relieves the pressure on that well so that the leaking well can be sealed. Relief drilling is something that BP has already started, but as always, it's something that takes months and months to complete. There is no safe way to drill oil underwater without a pretty good risk that if a blowout happens, that well will leak for months, essentially uncontrolled, until a relief well can save the day, weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks down the bloody road.
BP, in my mind, no longer stands for British Petroleum. It stands for beyond patience. People have been waiting 34 days for British Petroleum to cap this well and stop the damage that's happening across the Gulf of Mexico. Excuses don't count anymore. You caused this mess. Now stop the damage and clean up the mess. It's your responsibility.
It's your responsibility. It's anyone's responsibility. It's a national tragedy, and nobody has any idea how to stop it. We know how to drill this deep. Nobody has any idea how to drill that deeply safely. Nobody. Joining us now live from Venice, Louisiana, is NBC News Chief Environmental Affairs Correspondent Ann Thompson. And thank you very much again for joining us. As far as I understand it there, the next thing BP is going to try is this top kill procedure. Is that right?
That's right, Rachel. In fact, they hope to start trying the top kill technique Wednesday morning. And essentially what this involves is taking heavy drilling mud and sending it down at a very high pressure through that blowout preventer and then down into the well. And the pressure and the weight of that drilling mud should stop the flow of oil, at least in theory, because the drilling mud is twice as heavy as the water and it's heavier than the oil. If that works, then they follow it with cement. But again, this has never been tried a mile beneath the surface of the water. And so the big risk here today that BP COO, Chief Operating Officer Doug Suttles said, is that the fear is that once they start this and it goes under high pressure, that the mud would go out through the broken riser instead of into the well. So that's what they're very concerned about. Tomorrow they will do diagnostic tests on the blowout preventer because they're going to use what are called the choke and kill lines to send the mud through the blowout preventer into the well. Once those work, then they hope to have this procedure underway Wednesday morning. And they should know, they say, by Wednesday night if it has plugged the well.
And just to be clear, is it for sure that they will definitely try this procedure, or with the continuing diagnostics that they're doing, is it possible that they'll figure out that it's more risk than it's worth, that there's there's a chance that it would make it an actually more out of control leak, and so they might not do it?
Right now, they are very confident that they're going to be able to go ahead with the top kill technique, but before they do, they have to do a 12-hour diagnostic test of the blowout preventer to make sure that this won't make the situation worse, because that is certainly what they don't want to happen. I mean, even if it doesn't plug the well, they don't want to make this catastrophe any bigger, if that's even possible. And so they will do that 12-hour diagnostic test tomorrow. That's what I understand. And then if all goes well with that, then they would do the top kill technique Wednesday morning.
And I know the last time we talked with you was almost 2 weeks ago from Louisiana. What's the impact of the spill look like on the ground there now compared to when we talked with you a couple of weeks ago?
You know, Rachel, 2 weeks ago when we last talked, to find oil was difficult. You had to go way out into the Gulf. We really didn't see it here close in the coastline. Now, I mean, you can go down the Mississippi River and essentially when you get to the mouth of the Mississippi, take a left or a right, and you will find oil. It is in the marshes. We were in Pasalutra a couple of days ago. It is very, very thick in there. Over the weekend, we took a boat ride out to the leak site. We got within 3 miles, and I can tell you it's one of the most depressing boat trips I have ever taken. At 12 miles from the coast, you would see dispersant and oil, in just traces of it. 14 miles, you start to see those chunks. By 16 miles, we are seeing literally huge rivers of oil and dispersant in the Gulf of Mexico. And at 26 miles, the oil was everywhere. It looked like the Red Sea. That was very depressing. Interestingly enough, as you got closer to the leak site, instead of seeing those chunks of oil, the oil turned into a thick, heavy sheen that you could see on the water. We have also seen over the weekend, I went on a boat trip with Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal. He took us over to the Cat Islands. And I don't think I've ever seen anything quite as helpless as seeing a brown pelican, black with oil, trying to fly away and just being unable to do so. And all around his island, where he and all these other brown pelican nests and some other beautiful birds, there's just this black ring of oil that threatens their